Hello, good evening again. Well, actually, good early morning to you. Silas here again. I'm going to try and do this one again. Okay, I did it about a week ago or so, but it didn't turn out very well. Um, and I disagreed with one's nephew. I wanted to take it down and try and do it a little bit better, and perhaps try and change a couple of words. Um, I hope you can all hear me. Anyway, this is one that he did, and yes, I'm going to advertise your book, nephew. Don't worry, I'm going to advertise. One's nephew has a book out there, an ebook so far. He is still trying to turn it into a little paperback thingy. It's called A Hell of a Trip by James J. Brannan, and it's available on Amazon and Lulu and many other platforms. Just Google the name and you will find it. Um, Not very expensive actually, but he is trying to turn it into a paperback, but having some technical difficulties. Anyway, sorry, yes, I was not. I'm a little unwell. Okay. Anyway, this is called again. I'll try this again, and this is adult erotica. Rather new way. Yeah, new thing for him. Anyway, and this was written about 15 to 20 years ago. He didn't actually date it. It was written as a dare, and they did so. Anyway, I'm going to get on with it, not to bore you. It's called Chance Encounters Strangers on the Train by Shameless J. J. Brannan. To set the scene, it was a warm, sticky night as the people travelled to and from where they did or didn't wish to be. The train wasn't particularly busy for a Friday evening. A man and a woman shared a carriage and sat on the opposing side, as one would expect. As the journey wore on, they were both feeling the stifling evening air. Peter, 42-year-old blue-collar worker, he was not overweight and had a good physique. It was so hot he had to take his tie off and unbutton his shirt a little. As he wafted his shirt and blew downwards, he looked over to see a 30-something, slim, elegant lady, about the same height as him, unbutton the top two buttons of her long, flowing summer dress. After doing so, she flung her hair back and noticed Peter observing her before he quickly looked away in the other direction. "Excuse me, do you mind if I open this window? It's just too hot in here," Linda asked as she wafted her dress at the collar while she undid another button. Sorry. Oh, open the window. Yes, yes, indeed," Peter replied. Peter had taken so long to reply, owing to the nerves, that Linda had already risen from her seat and was fiddling with the window opener. Peter stood up to help. As he did so, he could not help but notice at Linda. As she stretched to open the window, he could see that her dress was clinging to her. His eyes ran from her feet, up her leg, and right up beyond. Here, let me help, please," he said. As he reached up to join her hands, on the latch he placed his other hand on the small of her back. "Thanks," Linda replied. The train gave a sudden shudder, and before they knew it, they were on the floor. After the obligatory checking, they were unhurt. They both giggled. "I'm Peter, by the way. Pleased to meet you." Linda, Linda, pleased to make your acquaintance." Linda had landed on top as they tried to get their balance back to a standing position. Linda's heel gave way, and before they could get their balance, they were against the window, wrapped in each other's arms, and their legs intertwined. As her groin rested on his thigh and hers made contact with his, she could feel Peter was becoming aroused. "Very sorry. I think we should sit down, perhaps," he reluctantly suggested. Linda gave a chuckle and whispered, "Do you believe people are meant to be? People are meant to meet? Destiny and all that?" Her breath became very heavy as the words left her mouth, then landed on his ear. "I do. Before long, they were kissing deeply, hands all over each other. As they kissed, they ground their groins against each other. She could feel his throbbing horn grow steadily, trying to escape the trappings of his clothes. She slid her hand down, undid his fly, and released his rock-hard love pole. As she gently stroked it, he took a hand from her back and slid it in between her legs, pulling up her dress with his other hand as she slid her legs further up his, inviting his exploration. Peter slid his hand further up her inner thigh. Upon reaching its destination, he found no panties, covering what was by now a very wet, sticky pussy. As he slid a finger inside, she groaned with pleasure, and her grip on his hard mass intensified. He added another finger to the wet, wanton tunnel, sliding them in and out gently. The kissing became even more lustful as their tongues became frenzied and Linda's juices were on maximum flow. After a short time, he took his fingers from her soupy crotch and brought his hand up. Linda pulled her dress to the side, exposing her very erect nipple. Peter caressed and pinched the nipple with his wet fingers, spreading her juices all over as he squeezed her breast gently. He then gouged on her wet nipple, sucking her juices from her breast as she pulled his cock. Linda then slumped to the floor and placed his hard member in her mouth. She looked up at Peter as she ran her tongue around his rim. He then took hold of her head as he slid in and out of her welcoming mouth. Linda stood up again and then they kissed as he moved her to the seat. He pulled her dress up as she sat down, legs parted. He moved his head downwards towards her very wet, well-trimmed pussy, which he began to massage with his mouth. As he licked, sucked, and flicked her clitoris with his eager tongue, she was going into meltdown. "I'm coming. Don't stop." He could feel her legs tremble as her orgasm intensified. Just as she reached her peak, he slid his tongue as deep inside her as possible. Her legs snapped shut on his head as she enjoyed the ecstasy of the moment. She then pushed him to the ground and hurriedly undid his belt and trousers, exposing more of his body. Linda then straddled him and allowed just the head of his solid manhood to slide inside her. They observed each other as she moved up and down. Before long, she could feel Peter reaching the point of no return, and she brought her body down, taking his full length inside her. Linda used her muscles to pull him in as deep as she could. She could feel his need to orgasm growing more intense. As they looked at each other, Peter's muscles began to tighten and convulse as he exploded deep inside her. She could feel the warm liquid pump from him. Linda began kissing Peter again as she also climaxed once more. She slumped flat on top of him as her pussy twitched and throbbed. After a short time, as the passion cooled, they realized where they were. They didn't want to, but knew they must get up and try to look normal as the reality sank in. They took a seat opposite each other again and tried to compose themselves, just in the nick of time. Tickets, please. I passed earlier, but could see you were busy, the conductor said as he stood with a huge grin. Peter and Linda could only blush as they searched for their tickets. Perhaps the thought of being caught had added to the initial excitement leading to the events that took place. Who can say? They had both exceeded anything they had done in the past on that train, that day, and who knows, perhaps this was to be the start of yet more exciting adult adventures. The end. Well, I do hope that was rather better than the last attempt I made. I couldn't stop giggling last time, to be honest with you. I found it rather funny. This is quite funny. Well, from my sense, it's quite funny. But I don't know. He may do more like this. He probably has some hidden away somewhere, you know. I don't know really. Anyway, folks, if you managed to watch this and see this, good on you. You know, if you want to join in at some point, feel free to get in touch. Leave a message, and please don't put any of these little girly adverts or things like that on here, please. That's not what this is about. I'm actually doing this when one's nephew's in his bed. He's sleeping. He doesn't know I'm doing this again. Anyway, goodbye to all. Much love. Silas signing off. I need a little sleep as well. Bye-bye for now. And I hope you're all surviving through this madness that is going on right now. And as I say, if you fancy a little read, don't speed read it. He warned me. But all the warnings are in the description. Good night for now. Bye-bye. Much love.